followed, like, right when you first came in, one of the advanced heart failure and transplant doctors. That's a long time.
Kinda, yeah, it's been a long time. Yeah, I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. I just wanted to introduce myself because I think you probably know everybody else around the table and
Yes.
might not have sort of remembered who I am. And Dr. Newby and the team sort of just asked me to come in just because, you know, early on when we were trying to evaluate your husband for, you know, for therapies and what we could do for him, you know, I was part of that decision making, and so can offer a little bit of the sort of historical perspective. And they brought me up to speed about how things are going. I'm really sorry that it hasn't gone better, of course. It's been very tough. Yeah.
Thank you.
So I mean, I guess I'll lead off, you know, just because we were talking a little bit about this, and I know that there's been a lot of discussion. You know, unfortunately, he's had this, you know, really you know, terrible outcome with the neurologic problems, and you know, hasn't really been able to recover. And it sounds like it's a, you know, an unrecoverable situation. And you know, so there's been some questions about, you know, how do we manage that, right? And you know, when we first met, you know, we kind of had talked about. We weren't sure whether we were how much we could do, but we would, you know, give this Impella therapy, you know, a week or two to see if he could, you know, get back up and, you know, be able to be strong enough to move forward with a more durable therapy. And of course, that didn't really happen. And so normally at that point we would, you know, take the Impella out. But I know that's really hard, you know, because it does you know, provide some support for the heart part anyway. Of course, he needs support with his breathing and many other things as well. And you know, for somebody like you know, I mean, that's not really a decision you should have to make, right? But I know that you really were wanting to get him home also. Is that right? So
Yes, sir.
yeah, and I remember this part
South Carolina,
exactly
Hopkins.
So, at Hopkins, yeah.
Yes.
Okay, because I remember that being part of the conversation because I'm from South Carolina too, and I remember us talking
Yes,
about that.
I remember now.
But it doesn't really look like we're going to be able to do that safely, right? Because you know, just during transport, he would die.
Yes, sir.
And so I guess the question that the group is, you know, sort of came to me with and said, you know, can you help with the discussion is, you know, like, how can we work with you to understand, like, you know, what this would look like that's best for, you know, your family and what he would have wanted? Because I remember talking to him and, you know, thinking about, you know, wow, here's a guy that's like really active and, you know, wants to do things. And my sense is, you know, of course, like, he would never want to be sort of like in the situation he's in now.
Right.
And so, you know, and I think you've had some family come up and be able to spend some time with him. And am I right in sort of understanding what I've heard from the team is that, you know, everybody sort of understands the gravity of the situation and it's not really going to get any better.
Right.
Yeah. So what, like, from your perspective, like, what would, you know, let's say a good death look like? You know, if somebody's going to be passing away and they can't have that happen at home, you know, is there something that we can do here to, you know, bring your family together? Like, is it, you know, to getting everybody together, you know, that would be helpful? Or, you know, what sort of preparations, you know, do you think would be helpful? Because unfortunately the situation we're in now is that, you know, because he hasn't responded to therapy and he's actually had worsening problems with the neurologic devastation, we're basically just in a situation where we're waiting for something, you know, to go more wrong, right? And that's not really what we had planned with him at the beginning. You know, it was more of a, you know, here's a, you know, here's the last ditch effort, and we're going to try this thing. And if it doesn't work, then, you know, then we'll stop. But that's hard. I mean, and I was actually just talking with some of my other colleagues, and, you know, in some ways we understand that it's it kind of puts an almost impossible burden on the family when it doesn't go well, right? Like, because we're always very hopeful. We're like, oh, you know, maybe there's only 10% chance it'll work, but we should try because, you know, we're very positive people and we want to help everybody that we can. But then we, you know, sort of like unfortunately then generate situations like this where, you know, we can do so much in the hospital now and keep people alive, you know, kind of indefinitely sometimes, or what seems like indefinitely, and then we don't have a way out. So anyway, that's a lot of me talking. You know, I'd really like to hear kind of what you're thinking about the situation, and because I know you've thought about it, of course, a lot. You know, what it would look like to have a good resolution to the situation.
Well, from what I'm understanding is, you know, the doctors didn't think he would even make it to the 21st, and he's still here. So they're still saying that at any day, I'm thinking that he could pass at any day.
Yeah.
So that was my understanding. And to make that a good resolution, I don't see any way to make it good. It's not going to ever be good for me.
Yeah. No, for sure. So you're, I guess, your sort of like hope or feeling, you know, is that it would just kind of work itself out naturally, right? Like that one of these bad things would happen, you know, like there'd either be an infection we couldn't control, or you know.
Well, my mom used to say, God made the doctors and God made medicine, so we're gonna use it.
Yeah, absolutely.
And you know, some religions, they don't believe in doctors and medicine, but that's what my mom, she passed already, but yeah, I've been dealing with a lot of deaths. My mom passed first with pancreatic cancer, but she lived for 2 years with a diagnosis. And then 4 months later, my dad passed. He lived with me, and my mom lived across the street. And then several months later, then my brother passed from brain cancer. So I'm a little bit stronger now, but I think if this would have happened like right how they did, boom, boom, and then him, I think that would have took me out. But I'm coming to grips that it's gonna happen any day. That's what the doctors, they didn't think he was gonna make it to the 21st.
Yeah.
And that was Dr. Shaw, I believe. Yeah, he was like, well, I'll do everything, because you know the kids were coming on the 21st. They hadn't seen their dad out of the 7, so yeah.
Has everybody had a chance to come and see him?
They have. One daughter, she wants to come back. Yeah. And one daughter, she's gonna need to come back because she drove her car down here. My baby girl, she drove her car down here and it broke down. I had to get it towed back to South Carolina. Yeah, so she took my Yukon back. So
we run into this situation also, you know, the therapy that we were thinking about with the bad therapy, you know, it's similar, right? So it's a pump that goes in and it runs all the time, and then, you know, when patients, you know, otherwise have, you know, gotten into a medical situation that's unrecoverable, you know, it keeps running, of course, until we turn it off. And so, you know, we have these conversations a lot, and where we say like,
or it could develop. They said he could develop a blood clot because he's not on thinners. Anything could naturally stop it.
Right, exactly. So blood, you know, the machine might fail. It might have an electrical problem. It might develop a blood clot. You know, those blood clots could come off and cause more strokes and things like that. You know, and so usually we end up having sort of a conversation like this and say, you know, when will we turn it off? You know, like, and you know, I would say most families say, you know, like. That they want to be there at the bedside, you know, and obviously you're here with him and you've been here, you know, pretty much constantly, right? And so if there are other family members that want to come, you know, and it is a little bit definitive, but on the other hand, I think that it's, for families, it's also often a big relief, right? In terms of, you know, saying like, it's not suffering, and then everybody, you know, I don't want to say feels better about it, because it's, you know, it's not a good end, but it's really just about the timing, right? You know, I mean, do you think that would be helpful to like have your, you know, the people in your family that you know, support you and support him to be here, and for us to, you know, schedule a time?
I don't want to schedule a time.
What if we schedule a time? Take that burden away from you so that you don't have to feel like that it's yours.
That would still be me telling y'all to schedule a time. I don't want to do that. That's not what I want to do.
One of the things that Tessa had that you guys had discussed earlier is that you know, at least saying that like, okay, don't want to escalate anything, you know, to increase
the chest compressions, because I saw the bruising. And I saw the people, you know, pumping up and down on his chest for like 30 minutes, and that was really hard.
Yeah.
And also, you know, read that he had fractured ribs and stuff, so.
And I guess I'm sort of thinking more about like the medical therapy, like any like, you know, drugs that he's on, you know, trying, you know, to say, okay, you know, we're at a point where we just don't want to add anything new, right? Is that something that you'd be comfortable with?
Well, when they brought up the part about an infection, I could not see him not being treated for an infection.
Yeah.
I don't know what other thing might arise, but I can't see not treating him for an infection.
Okay. Even though the infection might be sort of, you know, in the parlance that we were saying before, like, you know, like kind of the way that, you know, the way that he might go, right? Like,
right.
Say, like
when God is ready for him to go, I don't think no machine will keep him alive. Else we wouldn't have cemeteries, we wouldn't have funerals, anything like that.
Yeah.
That's what I believe.
Yeah. Got tissue.
Thank you.
I think the last option. Any other thoughts around the I think we really want to be sensitive to the fact that, like, you know, nobody ever wants to, you know, to give up on, you know, nobody's ever going to do that. I think that you do seem to understand, you know, well that we're telling you that, you know, that he's not going to survive. So, you know, from our perspective, you know, as people who always are trying to do no harm, I guess that, you know, part of our problem is that we feel like we're harming him now, right? We're not giving him any benefit. We're hurting him in a way by continuing to subject him to this therapy that isn't helping him. So I think that's, you know, fundamentally, like as doctors,
hurting,
like that's really what it comes down to for us.
I don't see how it's hurting him. He's not feeling when y'all pinch on him and things like that. He's not feeling anything. So I don't see he's being hurt.
Do you think that we're giving him any benefit?
Yes.
Yeah.
Because he wanted to be here.
Oh, so you think that he would, that like?
Yeah, he wanted to be here. He always wanted to be here with me.
Yeah. I see. Okay. Not like here, like in the hospital, but like, you know. Like
no, here on Earth. Yeah, living. I mean, I'm feeling like he's not hurting. Is it hurting y'all? That's what I'm thinking. Is it hurting somebody? Because that's the feeling that I got with Dr. Applefield, like as if he's being hurt by my husband still being alive. So.
Well, we did, like I said, I mean, it's mostly about us feeling like we don't want to be hurting your husband, right? Like, you know, I mean.
He's not hurting. I don't believe he is.
Yeah, it's hard to say, right? Because he can't communicate.
But one thing they said is his blood pressure would show pain. He would show some type of activity. That's what I heard early on, that he would show some type of activity if he was feeling pain.
Yeah.
I think we worry a little about that, especially in the setting of when we're doing a lot of support, like with an Impella, that we worry that it's a little harder to tell with vital signs what he may be doing underneath a lot of support. And so we worry a little about that. And I think the other thing Dr. Newby and I have become more worried about in the past few days is, I think you and I had a conversation a little bit about watching for the blood shearing with the Impella. And some of those labs have clearly increased in the last few days. And so we worry that the support we're giving him is causing kind of damage to some of his blood cells and causing them to kind of break open. And so normally what we do in that situation is we would start going down on the support to have the motor not run as quickly to reduce that. And we have not been sure about how to handle that, because we know that we've had conversations before about turning down kind of the support on the Impella. I know that brought up a lot of other conversations, and that we weren't sure you wanted that. And so we've been in a position of, we don't want to harm him with the device. We want to honor what you want and what you think he would want. And I think that's just kind of one example, I think, of what we run into sometimes in this situation of feeling like when someone is dying and their body's having multiple organs, you know, that are shutting down, we feel like sometimes when we try to make one thing better, we make something else worse. And I think we've been running into a little bit of that.
I think that's what we mean when we say again, not physical pain or sensation that he feels, but things that we are creating with these devices that are causing harm beyond any benefit that we're giving him from the devices.
Well, I'm glad that we had this meeting, and I understand what y'all was saying. If I have to weigh it, I would rather him be here as long as he can be here until God calls him. And I've stated that a couple of times, and I was hoping that the last meeting I had that he would share it with everybody so that I wouldn't have to keep, sharing it, because as y'all tell me, Leon's not gonna get better. And his passing is imminent. It's coming. So I'm aware of that, but yeah. So I do appreciate this meeting and you coming back, because I hadn't seen you since the incident.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I do appreciate that. And I thank y'all for that.
One of the things, I'm just gonna name it straight up.
Mm-hmm.
The impeller was never designed to do what it's doing today.
Exactly.
And so we're in this area with trying to keep a device doing something it was never designed to do.
Mm-hmm.
And typically it's put in place, and then there's another step that happens. He no longer is strong enough or qualifies for that next step.
Mm-hmm.
And so it puts them in this them as in the team.
Mm-hmm.
Because in a sense, we are stuck with needing to decide moving forward
Mm-hmm.
towards a therapy,
Mm-hmm.
or we have to wean him down.
Mm-hmm.
And
And
so
and I understand that
Mhm.
the impeller was temporary and it wasn't designed to
I'm
do.
telling you why they keep calling you in a meeting.
Right,
Because
where it's
of
not
that.
designed to do
Mm-hmm.
what it's doing now.
Mm-hmm.
But my husband wasn't designed to be in the position that
True.
he's in right now.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I just wanted to answer what you said, why they keep
I
calling
understand.
you, is because we're in this place of we should be moving one way or the other, because the impeller was never designed to do what
Right,
it's doing.
I get that.
Mm-hmm.
I get it.
And